Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. I'm delighted to have another beautiful lady with me today from Canada. I think it's my first guest from Canada, so I feel really delighted and privileged. And her name is Jocelyn Pettit. I'm just going to give her a little introduction and then we'll get into the podcast. But Jocelyn is an energy therapist. She works with the emotion code, the body code, the belief code and PSYCH-K. So I'm really excited to sort of learn more about those modalities. I've heard about them. I've heard of people who have actually, had some great results. So it's just wonderful to have the opportunity to share that with our listeners. So welcome, firstly, Jocelyn. It's so good to have you here. Thanks.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm just going to start. I don't know. I just felt guided sort of to ask you this question first. The name, as you know, of the podcast is Wild Woman Podcast. And I'll just share why I chose that name. It really came about organically about a year, I think, more than a year ago after reading the book Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And it's really about coming into the true, I suppose, divine feminine and that expression. And that was something that has been my journey. I talk about it a lot. So forgive me, listeners, if I keep repeating myself, but it just feels important to share this since I had breast cancer in 2016. So that brought me on a journey from having lived very much in my male masculine energy, which many of us do because of the world we live in. So it led me on a whole sort of journey, and I'm still on it, of sort of coming back into balance with those energies. So the discovery of the divine feminine and what it means to me was, yes, embracing the softer, receptive, more that's intuitive side of myself that's there quite naturally, but also recognizing that to be a woman and having, the energy of the feminine is very powerful, and it's a very strong creative force because we birth into the world ideas, and as we all do, but in terms of embodying that in myself. So I'm on that journey. And I just want to ask you, because you're obviously a wild woman, any woman who's living on her path and in her truth, what does it mean to you?
It would mean it's almost like I would describe it like a flower that's a bud and it hasn't bloomed. And so I feel that, for me, discovering who I was and who my purpose could serve and what I was meant to give and give back to this world, um, coming into alignment with what feels good in a way of work was like a blossoming flower. So for me, coming into divine feminine, and that is a conscious effort always. I think it's not always an easy, there's flows, and working women will often be in their masculine energy because we're forced to be for whatever reason. It is a conscious effort to go back into the flow, to go to your heart space, to understand who you are as a person. And I feel it is like coming home to who you are at the soul level. And that's kind of how I would describe this journey for me, and a journey for a lot of women, even who come into their late 30s and early 40s, when they're thinking, I need a career change, or, I'm ready to start my healing now. It's really about coming home to yourself and
Mm.
honoring your spirit.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. I think that is ultimately it. Finding that aspect in yourself. And then this is where I find it very interesting as well when you talk, and we'll get into the emotion code and the body code and the belief code, because my experience as well has been that is where really once I sort of, it was releasing a lot of the blocked emotions that helped me connect more with my spirit or soul and what my calling is. And that's a work in progress. And then the beliefs around that. So can you talk about what I found? I heard you on another podcast, and you were describing how you found the emotion code, and you were saying it wasn't something very dramatic, that my life was in turmoil or anything. And I found that quite interesting because most people I meet, and myself, had to get a big bang over the head to sort of reorient me. So yeah, just talk a little bit about how you discovered it, and what do you make of that? Do you feel it has to be something very traumatic in your life that gets you on your path, or is there an easier way?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think timing is everything and it's divine. And for myself, I was enrolled in a library school program and I was online learning. And one of the assignments was to investigate this app that had many documentaries and ebooks. And it happened to be a documentary that I clicked on called Emotion. And it was E-motion because emotion is energy in motion. So I clicked on this documentary and I watched it, and it was as if light bulbs were going off in my head. I was fascinated by what people were talking about with energy, with emotional healing, with energetic healing, with the power of our thoughts. And I mean, I honestly grew up with this. My mother was very much into positive thinking and Anthony Robbins, and
Okay.
this is something that I grew up with anyways. But I think timing again is everything. So I watched this documentary. I felt energized. I felt excited by what I was hearing. And the next day I rewatched it again with my daughter. And so for that whole next week, I just decided I'm going to just change my thoughts. I'm just going to see what happens. I don't know. And amazing things started to happen in my world and in my life. And I had come across an emotion code practitioner in my town. And, I walked in just very excited and high on life and said, I'm here. I want to experience this, but it wasn't a traumatic thing. It was just, let me feel
Mm.
this. I want to learn. And I went through the session and it was an incredible experience where I felt at the end of it like a weight had lifted off my shoulder. Tears had come down my face in session. I was amazed that she could find emotions that really resonated with certain experiences that I had in my life that I hadn't thought about, and was just amazed that I had been carrying it. And the lightness that I felt afterwards was palpable and real, and I knew that it had done something for me. So that was really the kickstart to this journey. And my learning originally was just to understand how this works. I was a very happy school librarian, no interest in changing careers, and it just propelled from there. But my training in it was really for myself and for my family at the beginning.
Okay. And when was that, Jocelyn? When did the
2019, I was certified, so probably
okay.
began 2018 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of us were being prepared, or there's a, like you said, exactly that, a timing for many of us, I say, to come online maybe more fully into our path. And leading up into 2019, 2020, it was like saying, okay, now you need to get into action into what you're doing. I mean, maybe you didn't, did you feel that at the time, or was it just the way things, it
I
just
think
happened?
I needed that kick in the butt. I did need the universe to really push me into this because, as I said, I was very happy in my work.
Mm,
I had a beautiful school library. I was on my own. I ran it,
mm.
and what was happening was I was getting recognized for my skill set in the school division, and was almost approached to apply for a position as an executive assistant for the superintendent, almost like a promotion with a salary in head office. And I accepted that position and realized that it wasn't for me very quickly after accepting it. And but if I hadn't have had the universe push me out of the library into that position, I wouldn't have pursued my business the way I did. So there was a big, big push from the universe to make me uncomfortable somewhere so that I could focus on my business. And I think that is being in the divine feminine, just recognizing and going with the flow and trusting that everything is happening for a reason. And so that was a big, big kick in the pants. It wasn't like a definite traumatic experience, but it was saying, like, we need to move you, Jocelyn, because you're very comfortable here and we're going to move you, and you're going to feel uncomfortable there and you're going to want to get out. And once you do, you're going to be in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing.
It's lovely to hear that, but it sounded like you listened very quickly. You
Yes.
knew. How do you credit that? Like, as you grew up as a child, and you said you grew up in a family where your mother was, open to Anthony Robbins, and were those sort of intuitive, or that sort of connectedness, was that sort of a part of growing up, or how would you describe yourself as a child? Like, was
I think my mother was very aware and took us to the Center of Positive Living churches. It was just she was always on
okay.
her own journey. And for me, the energetic world didn't hit me till about age 38, I think. And I would talk to her about it on the phone, and she said, "Oh yeah, I know that. I know that." And I said, "Really, Mom? Like we've never discussed this." And she said, "I didn't know who I could talk to about these things." So I think very
I
much
know.
we live in this like 3D world where we sleep, we get up, we eat, we work, we repeat, and it's just a pattern. And we don't really think about it until something happens and your level of consciousness is opened up and you start to realize there's a whole different world out there and you become curious. And not everybody is there with you. Not everybody
Mm.
you can talk to about these things. Not everybody understands it or they think you're out there. So the shift that happens for people, I think, is on their own timeline. And the level of consciousness, awareness is really an individual journey. And not everybody's there, and that's okay. They might go through their whole life never really understanding. I think it's a smaller percentage, it's growing, but it's a smaller percentage that is really curious and interested into what is this realm, what is the energetic world, and how does that all work.
Yeah, and it does feel like it's speeding up. Well, I think we know if you look at whether it's astrology, I study astrology, or there's lots of different things, the Kali Yuga, loads of things are pointing to we are going through a shift in consciousness for those that are interested. If you're not,
Yes.
that's fine too. So, are you noticing with clients, even, are you finding more people coming who, because obviously to choose, and we'll get into what it involves, to choose to come and say, okay, I want to work on my beliefs or I need to work on some emotional backlog, there has to be a certain level of consciousness going on, doesn't there? And an awareness, self-awareness. Do you notice that with your clients?
I noticed that
Mm.
immediately from when I began the work in 2019. There was already an existence of people that were seeking this type of healing. And I always ask clients, how did you find me? What brought you to me? And many of them will say, it was either social media or a Google search or a recommendation. Um, and people will find different practitioners and they'll choose who they resonate with, and that's how you end up working with somebody. Have I seen it grown? I think I've seen the amount of practitioners grow. It's doubled since I got certified, which is amazing. And it's great to see people pursuing a path. This path isn't for everyone, but it's great to see people pursue a path that is in alignment with their journey. So whether it is in the energy world or even if it's just working on themselves and their beliefs, that brings them into their passion in the arts or in their passion in using their creative skills in another realm and getting out of an office that makes them miserable or unhappy. Working with clients, no matter where I see them go on their journey, as long as it brings them joy, then I know it's more in alignment with their path.
Yeah, yeah. And just to get into the emotion code first, is that I've heard you talk about the emotion code and the body code. Can you talk about how they work? So if someone's coming to you, what can they expect as a client?
Yeah, and so the emotion code really is about tackling trapped emotional energies that exist on our energy body. And so the past exists in two ways. It exists in the way we remember it through our conscious thought, the story that we tell ourselves, and it exists in the energetic experience that could be tied and continuously living on your body. And that's sometimes hard for people to comprehend that we could be holding on to something so long. But if you remember an event that happens in your past and an emotion is invoked with that remembrance of it, then most likely you're holding on to a trapped emotion from that past event. So when you
There's a
heal with the
charge,
emotion,
is it? There's
there's a
sort of a bit of a
charge. It's
charge.
still
Okay.
there, and so when you heal with the emotion code, you can remember the experience and understand it's a part of your path, your fabric, your journey, but that emotional charge is healed and released and processed and it's gone. And so that's the difference. There is an emotional weight that people carry and you really don't notice it. It's like physical
Mm.
weight. You don't notice it until it's there, and all of a sudden, you've gained so much weight. And so when you feel the release of it after a session is when you feel that lightness and you understand, wow, I really was carrying emotional weight. And that emotional energy can cause a variety of things. I think the most common being headaches. So when people experience a headache and you take an Advil, you're suppressing the pain through medication, but you're not addressing the root cause. And I didn't understand this for years.
Mm.
But the head and the pain that you're experiencing is your body telling you there's something here. This is exactly where it's living and exists, and it needs to be healed. And neck pain, neck tension, jaw pain, back pain, the emotional energies can actually exist absolutely anywhere. And so that's more the emotion code side of it. And then the next level of this was the body code. And the body code looks at things other than emotions. So other energetic imbalances such as toxins or pathogens or mental energies that exist on the
Okay.
body that could be causing certain actual physical pain. And I'll give you an example.
Mm,
I even just working with a client, I can't remember the
mm,
idea allergy that came up yesterday in bodycode, but for myself, a few years ago, I ran in an election and I was really excited. And they took a picture of me when I cast my first vote for myself. And I remember looking at the picture and seeing like crow's feet on my eyes and just like thinking, oh my gosh,
mm,
I'm aging. And I'm driving off to a conference and I'm talking to my son, who's also an emotion code practitioner. And I said, can you check me? Because I have this weird pain that just came out of nowhere. And I understand that when a pain comes out of nowhere, it's your body communicating with you.
mm.
So he goes and he checks and he says, yeah, you have an idea allergy to aging. And I was said
Don't we all?
that makes complete sense to me because just this morning I saw a picture of myself and that's what I thought. And that mental energy, that reaction that my body had, that physical reaction was an idea allergy to aging. And so he let that go and that was healed. But the body code just goes into so many other things and it can be very specific with it's in regards to your skeletal system, which vertebrae is holding on to an
Mm,
emotion, your respiratory or reproductive system. And the body code just can really pinpoint where things are being held. And if it's not emotional, is it a mental energy? Is it an inherited energy from your past ancestors?
mm.
Is it a shared energy that you might share with another human being? And so the body code takes it to a whole nother level and can discover much more. So it really was a natural next step in the journey for many practitioners. Once you do the emotion code and you see the power of that, you definitely want to continue and experience the body code.
Okay, so the emotion code, am I getting this right, is clearing it sort of energetically, is it? More so.
Emotions, it's
Okay,
focused on
emotions,
emotion.
but it's clearing them, whereas in the body code, it can still be emotions. I'm just thinking of, like, I've gone to lots of different healers and holistic healers over the years in different ways, and most recently spinal flow. So and it all has been working with, emotional blockages. And a lot of them, some of them work on the body, some not, but it's always releasing, yeah, the energy of that
And the body
emotion.
code is releasing as well. It is still
Okay.
continuing releasing. It's just energetic imbalances that might not only be emotional. It's energetic imbalances that are knocking your system out of whack or putting it in misalignment, but it could be beyond just a simple emotion. It could be a pathogen, it could be a toxicity,
Yes. Okay.
other energies. So the body code took it a step further into, well, we can bring forward these energies and transmute them. Well, let's look at what else that there could be on the body, and it just, yeah, it takes it that step further.
Wow. So just take us through, maybe even if I came to you as a client, how do you, firstly, do you work remotely as well as in person?
Yes,
You
most of
do.
my
Yeah.
sessions are
Are they?
online
Yeah.
because I work with clients all over the world, and I do have an office in town for in-person sessions. But whether you're working in person with a client or you're working across the world with a client, your intention is always to connect to their energy, and
Mm,
that intention. And it's beyond, with quantum physics, there is nothing, no such thing as time and
mm,
space. And so your connection is instantaneous, whether you're in front of me or you're across the world, or
mm,
even if I'm not looking at you, through just paying attention to your name and your birth date.
mm.
And when the intention is for healing and I do my muscle testing, I'm muscle testing on your behalf. And that's how I would pull up the information.
Yeah. And when you're muscle testing, so do you use, like, for example, just say the two of us were here doing, just to give an example, I can give a little demo, but how would you go about? So say if there was something, would you just tune in and get a sense of where something is held, or would I do the muscle testing? Is that how it
No,
works?
I
No,
do
you
it.
do it.
No, I
You
do
do
it.
it.
Yes,
Okay, because I've done
I
that
do it.
before. Okay, you don't use pendulum or anything like that, is it? No, just purely
And
muscle
that is just another form of muscle,
statements. Yeah,
but I use my
yeah,
fingers. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Really powerful. Wow. And it really strikes me as well. For example, say I was saying I was doing quite a bit of work in the past on a lot, and I felt it, as you said, the lightness. And yet it strikes me you could be going around like you were in your life before you found the emotion code, going, I'm feeling fine and things are good. So how does someone nearly identify, like if I was here going, well, I'm going through my life, it's fairly average, it's good enough, that I might need more work? Or there is, so I know you said about the, is it mainly if I'm being triggered, or
Mm. Well,
how would I
I think it's
recognize?
it's different for everybody. Like I
Mm,
was thinking my life was fine and normal, but I
mm,
had experienced migraines and headaches for 19 years of my life and consider that normal. And
okay,
so,
okay, well that wasn't, yeah, yeah.
that's the thing. People might have, I have back pain, but that's just aging. And so they
Mm,
just write it off as normal and then they continue on with their life and not think that they might need emotional healing. And so, you really don't know until you experience a session that, oh my gosh, the root cause of such and such might have been this. And all this time I'm thinking it's because of a physical problem or natural aging or because I worked out too hard. Like the 19 years of headaches that I suffered with was so bad that my doctor wanted me on medication every day of my life to prevent it because it was more than half of my life. It was 3 to 4 times a week migraines that could last days. And when I began the emotion code, that's the only thing that started to help the reduction of my headaches. And it's very rare. I might get 3 a year, and it might be with a full moon or because of a weather change, but it has nothing to do with the emotions anymore. So it took layers and layers and layers of healing to figure out what needs to heal that was causing my headaches for my adolescent years that I considered normal. And so when people go through life and they have knee pain, oh, but I had an injury, or, and they just write it off as normal, it's not
mm,
normal. And so I think it is an awareness. Again, it's an awareness of there could be something else here, but what is it? And I think mainstream world is, they understand about seeing a doctor for your physical health. They understand seeing a mental health therapist for your mental health. And, just recently, they recognize spiritual health as being a part of that. But what we're focusing on is something that hasn't been accepted as widely, which is your emotional and energetic health. And
mm.
that plays a major role.
Yeah, it does. And I feel it's really where our power lies, because what I've noticed, I don't know, I'm sure you see this with clients, is the more I've done the emotional work, the more creative. I wrote 2 books after cancer. I'd never written anything in my life, but that was to do with a lot of the healing associated with that. And also I started to feel this sort of power. It's like I always feel the other side of your pain is your power. I just, and it's sometimes that it's how you get there. And like you come across, when you say there about the headaches, okay, that maybe wasn't as, I mean, it obviously sounds it was debilitating when you were getting them. Did you, for yourself, trace that back to the root cause for you that you understood? Did you get,
Yeah,
yeah.
eventually I did everything though that normal people would do is I did acupuncture, massage, chiro, I went to lane swim. I did everything physically that I could do and still experience them. And then when I went to an emotion code practitioner and I said I have headaches and she's like, well, there's these emotions that are contributing to that. That was just the first layer. Like it really was multiple sessions of really getting in and figuring out what were the cause of those, what was I holding on to from teenage years, the neck tension where it began, what needed to be healed off of my neck. And so that's what I'm saying is a lot of people wouldn't recognize that
Mm,
as a stuff and they would just take the ibuprofen like I was or the Advil or the Tylenol to suppress it, and that's what we're taught to do as opposed to looking at the root cause because we're just unaware. So when the emotion code was introduced to my life and I started to look at things at a different level is when I started to recognize, wow, there is a way to heal this and you don't have to suffer, and there's alternate routes, not to sidestep our miracles with medicine. We do need our doctors and our medical we need our professionals in all realms. I'm just saying that this is another aspect that could, if it was incorporated in the mainstream, could really help clients and people figure out, there might have been something else contributing to this.
yeah. But I think there always is. I mean, when you get to that place in your life, and that, as you said, there's something that there's a timing around it. You start to see that everything's connected. Everything is mind, body, spirit. Like, and to me, that's very empowering. So, do you find with clients, like it's obviously a very empowering technique, or to use emotion code. That obviously is one of the key benefits, as well as, can you give some, without giving not specifics around people, but some sort of just key examples and maybe results that you've had with it?
Sure. And I think the examples that I have seen in the last 5 years of my practice have been what kept me going, because that has been the most enjoyable and rewarding part of my work, is seeing results with
Mm-hmm.
people. But I have seen clients tell me they've gotten off of like antidepressants, telling me that like one session was more valuable than 10 years of therapy. Anti anxiety, if it's a heart medication, blood pressure medication, they've come off of that naturally on their own. And I always tell them, you need to do that under the supervision of a doctor. But like they come back to me the next session. Gout, I've seen gout after a
Wow.
session. Um, Physical things that you would never even imagine. Some
What's the
people, it's,
connection? Sorry, now I'm going a little bit
yeah,
off, because somebody just spoke to me recently who's suffering hugely with gout, and I said there's a deeper root cause to that. Is it a different root cause for everyone, or would you say
it
certain?
is a different root cause, I think,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
can't say that this
I
would
know
work for everybody.
generically. Yeah,
But
yeah.
when I look at a second session with somebody and they come back to me and I look at their first report and I go through all the first things that we worked on, I'm like, well, how is this and how is this and how is this? And they say that's resolved. And I'm like, well, that's great news. So that's how I find out usually that something has been resolved, is on that second session when I'm like, do you still have the stomach pain? And they say, actually, that's good now. Do you still have the hip pain? No, that's good now. And so when you start to hear that on the continuing
Mm.
session, that's when you start to recognize, okay, well, this is good news. That's not a problem anymore. We're moving forward onto something else. I had a client yesterday in Toronto, and he was telling me after his session, we had removed toxicity from his system that he had gotten a few years ago, and all the symptoms that he had been experiencing after that toxin had entered his body, he's like, they're all gone. He's like, it's just like it was before. And so he's like, I know this is real. He's like, because I remember what it was like before I took that toxin. And he's like, and now that that has been released, he said, my body is back the way it was before. So there's just, for every single person, it's a completely different experience.
Mm.
However, when you do further sessions with people, you can hear the feedback and you can hear how they're doing. And then you look at all the ailments that you worked on before. And that's where it's just incredibly rewarding to see maybe something has happened. Has there been times when things haven't been resolved? Yes, for sure. There
Mm.
has been when things aren't resolved. So then maybe it's beyond this, or maybe it is a physical thing, and that's okay. But I would say 90% of the stuff that we work on are resolved.
Okay. And do you get into, or does it come up that obviously we often carry a lot of family trauma and conditioning and ancestral? Does it ever, or is that part of your work that you would look at even past lives, or do you go there, like, or are people open to going there?
I would
Would
say
you?
that past lives, no, not as much. If
Mm,
we're led to it, like if they have carried something forward in a past life, it would come up in the body
mm,
code system if it needs to heal. Inherited emotions, I look at every session. So
okay.
inherited are things that you get from your parents and your ancestors. I always look at that every session. And then again, if something is missed that needs to heal, the body code will bring it forward anyways.
Okay. And just to get it, when you do the muscle testing with someone, what happens then? So say you come in, it's obviously you're identifying a weakness. There's a weakness. So are you making, how does it work? Are there statements that you ask, or, you know,
Originally,
yeah.
when you're trained in this, they give you like a statement to say, and something you do, like you release it 3 times through a governing meridian. And that's the way it is beginning for every practitioner. We all do it the same. And then I recognized, as I was doing this full time, every day, all day, that as soon as something was picked up for me, it was transmuted instantly without me having to say anything, without me having to do anything. And so it became like my subconscious mind became immediately fast at transmuting these energies. And I would know that because I would have the client stand up and I would try to teach them the sway test and say, okay, just confirm that you have this. And sometimes the body would say, no, I don't have it. And I'd be really confused. And then I would say, can you ask the question if it's been released? And then the body would say yes. So that's when I started to realize, even in the time it took them to stand up, that
Mm.
once I pulled up the energy, it was transmuted right away.
Wow. So it just sounds, yeah, well, you sounds like you're
You
really just, yeah. Uh,
Your intention, once your
yes,
intention as a
exactly.
healer becomes very strong and it knows what it's doing, and that happens to multiple practitioners. So, when you get to that point, when you're doing this full time, I think your just body is in work mode. It knows what it has to do, and your subconscious mind gets to work to the point where I'm working with clients and we're having a conversation, maybe even for the whole 45 minutes about something completely different, and I'm clearing on the back end because my
And you're
subconscious mind.
conscious, oh, but are you
Yeah,
conscious? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can
yeah,
just
my
pick it up.
subconscious mind is
Yeah.
doing the muscle testing and clearing, and my conscious mind is having the conversation with them. So that's the point that I've actually gone to now.
Mm, yeah. It sounds like a more, when you talk about the unconscious mind, is it more sort of that higher self aspect of you, or how do you sort of, you know,
The subconscious mind. So there is like our consciousness, which is 1 to 5%.
mm,
And then the subconscious mind is the remaining portion. So 95 to 99% of the brain that we don't use, or the consciousness
mm,
that we
mm,
access. And so in this work, you're actually allowing the subconscious mind to take over. You're allowing it because you're trusting your muscle testing, and your conscious mind is still what you use to make
mm,
those conversations and decisions and the typing and the things that I do. But the subconscious mind does the work. And I mean, if you can imagine that amount of power that we have access to, that it can do the clearing, it can do the muscle testing while I'm having a conversation with somebody.
yeah,
Of course it can. It's a brilliant computer. And the higher consciousness that you're talking about, or the super consciousness, I think is even beyond that. I think
mm.
that's a higher consciousness that we do have access to connect to as well. But when I'm working with clients for the healing purpose, it is using the subconscious mind.
Okay. Yeah, because I find the more work I'm doing, I can feel more tuned in. I say my higher self, the source, whatever. I can feel that an awful lot with me in anything I'm doing now. So I suppose,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I sort of relate more. Maybe it isn't the subconscious, but I can feel things happening on another level as I'm talking. So I don't
I
know if
would
that's
think
the
your
same
higher
thing.
self is your subconscious. I would say that
Yeah,
your higher self
that's
is your
yeah,
subconscious.
because that's sort of
Yeah.
how the words I would use. And I think
Yeah.
from what you're saying, it's that it's operating away and you're aware, but you're still functioning in your conscious mind in your day to day having a conversation. So it's amazing that that's so powerful, isn't it? That's just wow. I
Yeah.
really, really so what led you then? I know you're also a Psych-K practitioner, and I love the fact that you were saying that a lot of obviously the emotional blocks are the things that hold us back in life. In most cases, I'd say for everybody, would you think that's mostly,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think, well, you see the power of just even the emotion code. And, there's something called a heart wall, energetic wall that people put up too. And the power of even just clearing that or working on that barrier that we have can bring forward the creativity, like you said,
mm,
as an author. I've worked on an author before and just cleared a few things off her heart wall. And she's like, my creativity, I just can't stop writing. I've got 5 books on my mind. The creativity starts to flow in when that blockage starts to come down. Now, when it comes to Psyche, I always describe it like emotion code, body code, even belief code is about healing the past. It's what you're holding on to that needs to be released. And Psyche is really about your future. It's now looking at your belief system and correcting, beliefs that are programmed in the subconscious mind that don't serve you. And now let's discover what those limiting beliefs are and change it. And Psyche really did propel me in the work that I do. And I accredit my success to it because as a healer, you could have I won't say healer, but as a practitioner, I believe like all healing is from God. But as a
mm,
practitioner, uh, you could have those like, can I make enough money to survive? Am I good enough? Or imposter syndrome, or, like, who's going to pay me to do this? And so those limiting thoughts could exist in the subconscious. But when you use Psych-K, you're now reprogramming the subconscious mind into what you want it to believe. It's like putting a program in a computer and hitting run. And so I remember at the beginning of my business, I would say, okay, I was making 4,000 salary a month. So I need to make $1,000 a week to really be at least equal to what I was doing before, which is, $200 a day, Monday through Friday. So how many clients do I need to work with a day? And that's how I started I use Psych-K, and I would say, I program the statement, I easily make $1,000 a week. And, when that first week hit and I surpassed my goal, I said, well, this is great. Okay, I can do it. Then there's a trigger, like subconscious mind, you did it. You thank you. Let's up it a bit. And you see that next goal hit and that next goal hit. And you start to realize it's as easy as believing. Your beliefs create your reality. And so when you correct your beliefs, the sky not isn't the limit. Your beliefs are your limit. And so you have to work on your beliefs. And that is what helped me as a practitioner really become successful, is just continuously working on my beliefs whenever I had spare time.
Okay. And how, like, it just strikes me, do most people who come to you, have they done the emotional work first if they're going to do Psych-K?
Not always. I think my most popular session is called a combo session where I do both because people want to experience it all. And I think that's a great powerhouse way to do it because there is no limit of when you can start working on your beliefs. And
Mm.
half an hour of clearing is plenty for a session because I'm very quick and I get a lot of clearing in 30 minutes.
Okay.
So I usually do about 30 minutes of clearing. I'm like, let's do this and get your vibration up. And then now let's look, what belief systems do you want to work on? What goals do you have that you want to manifest? And then we'll spend the next half hour working on psyche or belief code and working on changing things in the future or behavior changes that they want to see happen in their life.
Okay. But it strikes me with beliefs and the belief code, if you have a lot of like emotional weight or baggage that you're carrying, that I've found that myself, that can affect the beliefs really sticking. We often hear people going around and saying affirmations, and I believe this, but there's a part of them that doesn't. So how,
100%.
yeah, so how does that sort of, that's why I
Uh,
say, does the
Yeah,
emotional
yeah. And
work
some
have
people
to
can
have happened?
repeat affirmations and nothing happens.
Mm,
Their
mm,
subconscious mind is so powerful and it says like this isn't true. And so repetition is one way the subconscious mind works. It can work with repetition. It can work with hypnotherapy and tapping into the subconscious mind that way. Sometimes that's 30 days of work. The psyche, the way it does it is it muscle tests. We muscle test and we say,
okay.
what is the best right left brain combination to program this affirmation? And we do the combination, we get the client in position, and I would be in position with them because our energies are connected, and then we sit there with the resistance of that affirmation or goal statement until we feel that lightness move. We muscle test it again, and that program is in. And usually I have my clients sway test it themselves. They can see prior to the psyche statement, their body's saying no. And then after psyche, their body is in belief. It's saying yes.
Wow, that's really, it just sounds like the muscle testing is really important because that you're tapping into what's really true.
Yes, it's a lie detector test. It is,
That's
it is.
exactly. I know. I've tried doing it myself. Now, I know sometimes, unless you're in neutrality yourself, it can be difficult because,
Neutrality is really important.
yeah,
Yes.
isn't it? Because, you can really want something. And I've used my body, I've used a pendulum, I use the muscle testing. And depending on my own state, let's say, the answers can be different. So is that really, that to me makes it seem like it's a very, yeah, a really powerful, yeah, lie detector test is the muscle testing.
What I
Yeah.
tell clients when we're teaching the sway test is, and I'll say, focus on yes and focus on no to understand how your body's answering you, is I'll say, be very direct with your subconscious mind and say, subconscious mind, show me a yes or no on this statement. So you're making a very clear directive to
Mm,
the subconscious mind, trying to get out of the conscious mind. And so your subconscious mind, show me a clear yes or no. And then that's when they will get the same answer that I'm getting. Because as a practitioner, I'm in neutrality. It doesn't matter to me
mm,
if it's,
mm, mm.
so that's the benefit of working with a practitioner is they're going to give you what they're getting. And we don't care what the answer is. So you can trust the muscle testing more. But for clients, if they're not getting the same answer I'm getting, because if you think yes, your body goes forward and you think no, your body
Yeah.
goes back, that's your conscious mind. Then I'll tell them to say the statement, subconscious mind, show me a clear yes or no. And then usually they'll get the exact same thing as me, but they have to make that directive to access the subconscious mind.
And you'll do that with them. So you'll both do it to make sure that that's really, yeah.
Yes, what I'm getting. Yes.
Yeah, that my God, that's such a powerful combination. And how old is this modality, like emotion code? Like, is this going back quite a number of years?
I think emotion
Yeah.
code, I would say is maybe 17, 18 years old. PSYCH-K even more so, maybe 20, 25 years old, that modality. Belief code just came out last year in October, so that's fairly new. And yeah, so whenever there was a new modality that could advance the work I do, I was really eager to take that next level. PSYCH-K was not in the same industry as emotion code body code because it's not energy clearing, it's energy psychology. But like I said, I recognize the fact that you can heal, 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 and then not really see a change in your life because you still have those belief patterns that would recreate circumstances because
Mm,
you're programmed that way. So I really became interested in the psyche and subconscious mind work when I became a business owner and trying to figure out, well, what can I do to manifest? Like manifesting is all trendy, and what is a way to bypass everything and get your beliefs in alignment with what you want. And so that's how I discovered Psyche and saw amazing results.
yeah. And just it strikes me so say when you're working with someone and you've done the emotion code and Psych K, and you can say that can help you get, okay, this is what I want to do. Do people naturally become clear on their path? Because say if someone has come to you and maybe they're a bit way down and a bit unsure in life, and you help them, how has that? Because they still, if they're still not clear on what their path is, or what's right for them, does that show itself naturally? Do you find, during the sessions?
If the intention is that, it depends what
Mm,
their is for the session. If their intention is to discover their purpose, then I would say, okay, that's what we're gonna work on, and we could do some psyche statements for that. Um, but not everybody's psyche. Sometimes people just want to focus on money or love in
okay.
psyche,
Yeah,
right?
they're
And
probably the
that's the
two.
topic.
I
Yeah, it's a
know.
popular too,
I know.
or healing. And so that will be where our psyche focus is. Have I seen many clients move into path that was off of what they were before? I've seen many, many, many leave and start their own businesses, and
Really.
not because I encourage them to, but because it's a natural ebb and flow when they start to get clear on who they are, and they start to see, like this work environment might not be healthy for me, or I'm unhappy like 6 to 8 hours of my life, then they naturally go in that direction. And so I've seen that with many clients. And then I've worked with many emotion code and body code practitioners as well, trying to help them in their businesses
Okay.
and trying to improve in doing what they do.
Yeah, it sounds like it's work that the more you clear everything that isn't you, you come back to a sort of purer state, and even your beliefs then will naturally, align, because I'm just wondering when you say some people come and say, oh, I just want to find love, which is fine, and money and all of that. But if it isn't deep, I suppose, what am I trying to say here? More deeply connected to what is let's say, a deeper soul calling for them. Does that work if you're just coming with?
I do think the clearing itself would bring more clarity into who you are because you start to let go of the trauma that you've been holding on to, which can make you really hardened to life. And so the more
Mm,
you let go, the more open you are into feeling again. It's like a baby that comes into this world not carrying all that emotional baggage. And so I would say you come back to who you are. But the beliefs are something so different other than the healing because the beliefs which are formed, especially the ones that are 0 to 8 in those formative
mm,
years, some things we don't have control over. Those are what we call the core beliefs. And if you grew up and you had some sort of experience in life that formed a core belief that you can't do something or the world isn't a safe place, that continuously lives on with you as you move forward, so that could be holding you back no matter how much healing you do. And so that's where working on the belief system and accessing and looking at your core beliefs, if you want to see change for the future rather than just healing the past, that's where I always recommend do the subconscious work. Because if you want to correct any beliefs that are not incongruent with the life that you want to live, you have to work on the subconscious mind.
yeah. And do they take long to develop, like, and particularly core beliefs? That sounds like quite a
It's a bigger
deep work.
session. It could be done in an hour. And it's the only session I offer that has some homework involved with it, the only one. But it is powerful because you recognize in that core belief session, you really recognize things that were developed. It's like a blueprint of your life from childhood, right? It's a blueprint. And so I think of the kids that were born during COVID times and what they witnessed from 0 to 8, and in that it wasn't safe to be near somebody. You had to have 6 feet and 9 feet in between you, and you couldn't be on a playground if there was more than 10 kids. And so you start, when I think about those times and I know about the subconscious mind, I already know about some of the beliefs that are being developed in those children. And I know how much that's going to affect them in their life moving forward, being at that young, vulnerable age and growing up in those times where you had to wear a mask or where you had to keep your distance and nothing was safe. It's going to affect you moving forward.
Of course, very traumatic. And do you work with children, Jocelyn?
I do. Yes, I do work with children. Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I work
lovely.
with children and adults. The children are always email sessions because I don't work with them on Zoom. They're too young really to understand.
Yeah.
So 12 and under, I just do email reports. And then even with adults, once they get through all their adult and adolescent healing, they always have the option to do deeper inner healing work with me, which is tackling the inner child as an adult. So just because we didn't get that type of healing as children doesn't mean we can't connect to the inner child and do it now. So there's always that availability as well. And so many of my clients will do that work too.
Wow. Yeah. It's amazing to even hear now when I think back to when I was younger. Now, I probably wasn't aware and I didn't really grow up in that type of family, but it's just become more. Do you find that more commonplace? Like when you talk to friends and people around about the work that you do, is it quite accepted or are they, what's that? Is that, how do
I,
people
I
view
think
it?
I think that, well, with my friends in my circle, it definitely is. Uh, and not everybody will believe it, but I guess for me, I've never had to really market or sell my services. I know that people will come to me who need to work with me. Half the time I forget to post for weeks on end, and that's okay. I let things flow naturally. And I remember my best friend took the course with me in 2018 or 19. And she told me, you're going to have to get out of that small town if you want to make this work. And that was her limiting belief. That wasn't my limiting
Mm,
belief. That
mm,
was hers. And I became international and worldwide known. And, people would recommend me worldwide. And that was because of the online presence or the referrals or because of the success of my business and the results that people were getting. And so that limiting belief that other people have could affect a person if they're not conscious of it. And my belief was no, it doesn't matter where you are. You have access
mm.
to the world through the internet. And I'm very successful in a town of 8,500 people. So
Wow. But you know what's beautiful as well? I just feel listening to you, and I think we're at that time where particularly women are coming into more leading more heart-led businesses, that it is possible. It's a new type. I think we're moving into a new type of environment. It's not dog eat dog anymore and competition. It is if you are following your own calling and in like what you described there, that sort of balance of yes, you have to get up and act and do and plan and all of that, but it's coming also from a place where you're allowing and listening, then the flow comes in. Like, is that what you found versus maybe what you were like? Is there a big difference of you in business now compared to when you were like the librarian? You
yeah, of
know,
course, there's a
yeah.
difference. Even at the beginning of my business, there was a difference from then to now. I think I was put more effort into it, and I was trying to, market and put posts out and get known. And now I'm way more laid back and just allow people to come because I don't have to do anything. I feel like they just will come. And I mean, sometimes I'll put a post out of availability and it just goes like that. And that's if I want to fill it up. If I want to fill it up, then I'll post it and I'll put it out there. Um, when it was all about numbers and money for me, I did reach a point where I was working 6 days a week, sometimes 9 to 11 clients a day, and I was exhausted. And I hit the financial goals, which were amazing to me and beyond what I had made before, but it wasn't worth it. And I wasn't enjoying life. And so I really did cut back on that work and my availability to my clients and take weekends off like normal people and limit my hours of working. And it became less about making the money that I wanted to make, as opposed to like living the life that I want to live and enjoying my life.
Yeah. And do you feel you've hit the sort of balance now of where you want to be?
Yes, I have.
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah.
It was a hard lesson because before success was money.
Mhm.
And then it changed because I realized on my day off, I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I was just recuperating my body. And so when I started to cut things back, or in summers work only 4 days a week, my life and the quality of life started to change. And I think, you're at your best when you're happiest and when you're living a joyful life. And that's what's more important. So that was just one lesson that I had to learn as a business owner,
Yeah.
is not about how busy you are, how many clients you have. It's about your quality of life, what works for you, what you're willing to give of yourself, and then, and having that happy balance.
Yeah. What's the most important part of this work for you? What
The
is
most important part, I think, of this work is just is the access to working with people from all over the world, and being able to I think keep my sessions at a point where accessible and affordable. Uh, I've had many coaches tell me you don't need to work on one-on-one sessions. You could do group work, and you could work way less
Mhm.
and charge thousands more. And I've had clients tell me I would have paid you $500 for that session or $800 for that session. It was incredible. And for me, it's not about that. For me, it's about more people accessing this type of healing work and being able to do it, um, and being able to see some sort of results or feel different in their life. That's what's more important to me than anything. And so I never changed. I never niched down and said, I'm going to work with one type of thing like some coaches told me to do. I never even hired a business coach, but they would always approach me. And so, yeah, no, I didn't niche. I didn't listen to like the mainstream. I said, no, I want to work with anybody on anything that they want to work
Yeah.
on. And I want to work with everyone, like who wants to work with me. So that's most important to me in my business.
Beautiful. I think that's a real sign of where we're moving to, and I'm seeing more of that. This sort of, well, we are moving into the Aquarian age, and just that more accessibility, that cooperation, that sort of focus, as opposed to the older world of, I don't say the dog eat dog, and it's all about, yeah, more numbers, more money. I mean, it's easy to say, but my sense, and I'm not saying I have it all sussed because I haven't, but I'm learning that as I follow my heart and my soul, and I sort of clear things, more of that abundance starts to come in. Now, maybe I could be doing it in a different way or faster, but I think it's a nice. I think they're not one or the other. That's what I'm hearing from you as well, which is really wonderful to hear, and that your passion is about helping as many people as you can. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. That's really
I've
wonderful.
worked with over 1,600 clients in the 5 years as of now. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
that would be
amazing.
almost more than 1,600 heart walls I've cleared, because I have clear heart walls on almost everyone that I work with. So
Wow. And just mention the heart wall because you touched on it before, and I know we didn't really talk about it. Is that one of the more common places when you do the emotion code that emotion is blocked, is it, or the energy is blocked? Is that
almost everybody has a heart wall, and it is, for me, I talk about it because it is, I find, one of the most powerful things to heal and work on for clients. In every session I work on it, in every emotion code or body code session. And basically it's when you go through an intense emotional experience in your life and you feel an emotion, which is energy in motion. So let's say it's heartache. Your heart feels vulnerable in that moment, and it takes the energy of heartache, which is an actual moving thing of energy, and it puts it in front of you like a protection barrier between you and the event. And then you go through the next thing in life, which might be grief, and that's too much. And so grief goes on top of heartache, and then depression on top of grief, and anxiety on top of depression. And so we end up walking around life jaded by our past experiences, because now we've got this energy wall in front of us as a protection barrier, and it just gets higher and higher and higher. And it starts in childhood. It does start in
mm,
childhood. And so when people start to have that barrier come down and they start to feel more and they start to experience life in a different way, that's a profound difference into allowing creativity. You're manifesting. Imagine you trying to manifest something, but you've got this wall of negative energy in front of you, attracting your soulmate or the perfect partner. You have this wall of like heartache and anger from your past relationships. They're going to feel it, because a lot of us have met somebody where you feel like, yeah,
mm,
that person has a wall up. You
mm.
can't get. we feel it on an energetic level. You feel the resistance, you feel that, they're very cold, and that is what we call the heart wall. So healing that in my sessions is one of the most important things that I do for clients.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just when you say that, that just sounds wow, because I can say I went around a lot of my life like that as well. And it's almost exactly as you said, you're not feeling anything. And I think, I don't know if you find this with clients, but often the thought of the pain that you know is sort of under the surface and probably behind layers and layers and layers, the thought of going there is so nearly horrifying that I'll get lost in it. I'll never, and I hear that a lot from people I talk to. And I felt it. If I go there, I'm finished. So, even to get people, do you find when people come to you, they're like, oh, I don't want to touch that? Or can you clear
Well, the
that? And
good thing
obviously,
is
yeah.
we clear it without them having to talk about it. That's the
Mm,
beautiful thing about the emotion code is it's a passive
okay.
experience. They don't have to say a word.
Wow.
Basically, I go in, connect, and I'm like, okay, abandonment comes up, betrayal comes up, heartache comes up, transmute, and clear. And they're just like, okay, yeah,
But
I
do they
resonate.
release?
Sometimes they start to cry, and
Yeah.
yeah, oh, it's transmuted and released right
Yeah.
away with them having to do a thing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Very
that
passive
sounds,
experience.
yeah, really,
It's
wow, that's
not
really,
exhausting in the sense that you have to process it through reliving it. Not
yeah.
at all.
But
Yeah.
do they physically? Because I would have always thought with and felt with emotions that you need to release. So there needs to be some sort of tears. It cannot just be verbal. But you're saying, with do most people have some sort of release? It would seem.
Well, that would be a belief that you have,
Okay.
but no, it's
Okay.
energy.
Okay.
Energy can be
I
transmuted,
need some work on my beliefs.
no, yeah, it doesn't have to be a cry. It doesn't have to be an
Okay.
movement. Some people do have tears, but quite often it's just a lightness and a relief that people feel without having
Yes.
to do anything. And they do have 3 days of processing post session where you could have your ups and downs, or you
Mm,
tired from the work that your body did, but it doesn't always have to look like a negative thing.
okay. Yeah. And nothing wrong with tears at all.
No,
I
nothing
enjoy them.
wrong. My first session, tears are coming down my
Yeah.
face too.
I know.
So
It
it's
can be, it's a
different for
nice
everybody.
feeling too.
Yes, it's
Okay, well,
different.
that's really nice to know. And I think for people, because you can sort of go, oh my God, what am I going to experience? So thank you. That's really helpful. And just before we finish up, I just like to ask you just around your path and the path that you've been on. And you were saying about how you've come into the emotion code and the work that you do. Where would you see that leading for yourself? Or what would be your dream for the future of how we work with, yeah, in terms of health and holistic health? What would be your dream?
I would love to
Mm,
see, like at one point I had a government contract, and so I was able to work with government employees as part of their health plan. And I would love to see more of that happen worldwide, as you have access to acupuncture, chiro, also have
mhm.
access to this type of work at no cost to you, but as part of your overall health plan. I think that would be the most ideal situation. I did create a corporation of about 17 practitioners, and we built an app as well called High Vibe Connect. And it's where, people can even have a 15-minute intro for $33. And you can work with
Wow.
any practitioner and just have a touch, even if it's one thing that's worked on, a shoulder, a headache, heart wall, you can just have that experience and then decide, do I want to continue on and experience a full session? So I did do a couple things. I built about 3 apps. I started a corporation with a group of people, and so I would love to see that grow.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I love the idea that's accessible to everyone. I think that's really the way of the future. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. I really appreciate your time today. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that? I'll put everything in the description box and everything, but just if you want to mention, if there's any words you want to finish on, any advice or tips for people if they're maybe not ready to go to someone or something that they can do for themselves
I would
as
say,
a practice.
yeah, if they're interested in learning more about the emotion code, you can download the emotion code app. There is one that has the book on there, and that's a good way to get started at no cost to you. You could learn about it on my social media, on my Facebook page. I do have a link where people can click on it, and you can get the charts and videos sent to you on your email. So there's ways to learn about it, and see
Mm.
if it resonates with you at no cost to you. But yeah, my social media handles are Edson Emotion Reset, my website, Edson Emotion Reset, and then the corporation where there's a group of practitioners that I trust wholly and promote and endorse completely, is High Vibe. The corporation is High Vibe. And so I know to put those links in there. But they are all very vetted and professional people who I would work with or send my clients to.
Okay, well, that you can't get a better recommendation. And just before we finish, can I ask you where did the name Edson Emotion Reset come? I was just curious about that.
It's I was trying to think of a business name. I had until I had until noon that day because there was a cutoff for the business registry, and my town that I live in is Edson. So I thought I'm gonna put this name and then change it later. Like I just need a name for now to start my business.
Yeah.
And Edson Emotion Reset was what I came up with. It's so simple. It's like my town, and what do I do? I'm like emotion reset. And I never changed it. It's stuck and it's known, and it'll probably continue with me no matter where I live, even if I don't live in Edson.
We must pay a visit to Edson. Everybody must be just emotionally reset and
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Some people think my name is Edson, and that's okay. But
yeah, yeah,
it's stuck, and you know what? I just kind of kept it.
yeah. Very good. Yeah, go with the intuitive hit at the time and follow that. Thanks so much, Jocelyn,
My
and
pleasure.
really, really love you. And thank you everybody for listening today. Take care until the next time.
Thank you.